Welcome back to Zodiac Talks Tarot, where we explore the spaces where astrology, psychology, and human truth overlap, sometimes gracefully, sometimes the way Sagittarius handles responsibility. Today, we are stepping into a story written not just in the stars, but in the timing of your own becoming. And if you're a Sagittarius, you may want to sit down for this, though I know you won't. You'll probably play this while packing for a spontaneous trip to a country you can't pronounce. That's fine. Destiny travels well. Our focus today is December 5th, a date that carries a pulse, a shift, a kind of cosmic exhale meant specifically for you. I'm speaking to you not just as someone who has spent decades researching astrology, social behavior, and the architecture of human emotion, but as someone who has watched these patterns repeat across thousands of charts, thousands of stories, and one undeniable truth: Sagittarius does not arrive quietly. You enter life like a philosophical wildfire. And on December 5th, life finally answers back. What's happening now is not random and not simply one of those seasonal bursts of optimism that Sagittarians confuse with spiritual enlightenment. This is timing sacred, overdue, deliberate. If destiny were an old friend, this would be the moment it texts you saying, "I'm outside. Get in. We're going." And unlike most signs, you won't ask where, you'll ask how fast. But the remarkable twist is that this time, destiny is the one racing to catch up with you. For months, maybe even years, you've been outgrowing your own circumstances, stretching past limitations the way only a fire sign can, restless, curious, hungry for something that feels like truth. December 5th marks the moment life finally brings the world up to the level you've been operating on internally. It's the day the universe stops speaking in hints and starts speaking in headlines. 3 shifts, 3 blessings, 3 unmistakable movements are forming around you. This isn't metaphor. This is energy, psychology, soul patterning, and in some ways, simple karmic math. You've been working through layers of letting go, recalibrating your direction, and reconfiguring your sense of purpose. You may not have called it spiritual growth. Sagittarius rarely does. You probably called it figuring things out while avoiding everyone. Yet the result is the same: your inner world is prepared, and the outer world is finally catching on. The first movement is a release you didn't realize you needed. Sagittarius tends to carry emotional weight the way you carry travel souvenirs, accidentally and long past their purpose. But on this day, something in you unclenches. In psychology we call it threshold tension, that subtle shift when the mind becomes tired of its own restrictions and chooses renewal instead. In Buddhist thought, it's the soft dissolving of attachment, the recognition that holding on is heavier than letting go. For you, it will feel like breathing for the first time in months. The second shift comes in the form of connection, someone whose presence reflects your growth rather than your past. This isn't necessarily romance, though the cosmos has a sense of humor and may throw that in for dramatic effect. It's more about recognition, a deep resonance that reminds you that you do not have to wander alone. Sagittarius jokes about independence, but every explorer eventually needs someone who understands why they wander in the first place. And the third shift is material, practical, undeniable. Sagittarius often floats in vision, yet December 5th pulls that vision down to earth. An opportunity arrives fast, unexpected, and aligned with the momentum you've been quietly building. Think of it as the universe saying, "Enough preparation. It's time." You don't need to chase this one, it comes directly toward you, and Jupiter, your ruling planet, practically shoves it into your hands. So as we explore this cosmic turning point, remember this: destiny doesn't just choose days at random. December 5th is a convergence of timing, readiness, and the simple truth that you have finally stepped into the version of yourself capable of holding what's arriving. Stay with me, Sagittarius. Today, we're not just reading the stars. We're reading your rise. The first shift arriving for you is not dramatic, explosive, or wrapped in the kind of cosmic fireworks Sagittarius secretly hopes for. It is quieter, deeper, and far more meaningful. If you've been feeling spiritually stalled, emotionally unfocused, or energetically flat in a way you can't explain, let me assure you that you're not losing your edge. What you're experiencing is something psychology refers to as threshold tension, that peculiar moment right before transformation when your inner world begins to feel too confined for the person you're becoming. In Buddhist teachings, this discomfort is called dukkha, the subtle suffering that arises when your current reality no longer matches your potential. In astrology, we often smile and say something far simpler: Sagittarius is outgrowing their own life again. This period is magnified by the rare harmony between Jupiter and Uranus, a cosmic pairing that functions like an energetic reboot. It is the celestial equivalent of turning your spirit off and back on again, except with fewer error messages and far more clarity. When these planets align, they loosen whatever emotional debris you've been storing without realizing it. And believe me, Sag, for someone who prides themselves on traveling light, you've been carrying more emotional luggage than an airport carousel. This Friday, something shifts, and no, it is not a breakdown or a grand life crisis. It is the first real release you've had in a long time. It may feel like finally deleting outdated emotional files you kept just in case, even though you knew they were slowing down your internal system. It may feel like suddenly recognizing that you've been lugging around someone else's expectations as if they were your responsibility to fulfill. Or perhaps you wake up one morning and wonder why you're still stressed about something that ended so long ago it practically belongs in a previous chapter of your personal history. This is not you becoming detached, this is your spirit exhaling after holding its breath for far too long. The blessing arriving with this release is clarity. Not the cinematic, lightning striking the mountain type, but the steady, grounded clarity that feels like stepping into daylight after being indoors for months. It is the kind of clarity that rearranges your priorities without drama, that brings calm without warning, and that helps you remember who you are beneath all the noise. And of course, because you're a Sagittarius, your first reaction to this mental and emotional order might be to sarcastically announce, well, if the universe wanted me to relax, it could have done this years ago. Yes, Sag. We know. Patience may be a virtue, but the cosmos has never been overly concerned with your personal timeline. This release is not simply an emotional shift, it is a psychological reset and a spiritual alignment all at once. You are stepping out of old narratives that no longer hold truth for you. You are shedding outdated versions of yourself the way other signs shed bad habits slowly and with negotiation, but you, Sagittarius, do it with fire and finality once the clarity hits. The gift here is spaciousness. You are making room for something new without forcing it, and for someone who typically tries to outrun discomfort by chasing the next adventure, this gentle surrender is a sign of growth. What's happening within you is not passive, it is powerful. It marks the moment you stop dragging the past into your present and begin walking freely into the future that has been waiting for you to catch up. The second shift arriving for you is a soul connection that carries purpose rather than chaos, a meeting shaped not by coincidence but by timing that feels almost suspicious in its precision. After decades of studying human relationships, attachment patterns, and the deeper psychological frameworks that draw people toward one another, I can say with confidence that meaningful connections don't appear when we want them, they appear when we are finally capable of being seen. Sagittarius, you've spent so much of your life being the one who carries the torch, the optimism, the emotional backpack everyone else forgot to pick up. You are the fire, the momentum, the compass, even when you don't want to be. But around December 5th, something rare happens. The universe brings someone whose presence doesn't require you to shrink or perform or keep the energy alive. Instead, they step into your orbit and reflect your light back to you with a clarity you didn't realize you'd been missing. This person may not arrive in the romantic packaging Hollywood has trained you to expect, though for many Sagittarians that possibility is very real. It might just as easily be a mentor, a creative partner, a steady friend, or a stranger who appears at exactly the right moment, as if they were waiting in the cosmic wings for their cue. Astrology compares this energy to the Lover's card crossed with the Two of Cups, but let me translate that through the language of psychology rather than mysticism. This is someone who aligns with the version of yourself that is emerging, not the version you've already grown past. They don't feed your wounds, they resonate with your evolution. You'll know them not because your heart somersaults like a teenager watching a summer crush walk by, but because something inside you relaxes. The recognition comes as an exhale, a sense of ease rather than intensity. This is not the connection that makes you feel unbalanced or overwhelmed, this is the one that makes you feel unexpectedly steady. And of course, being a Sagittarius, your first instinct will be to do what you always do when something good tries to get close, either make a joke, run in the opposite direction, or deliver a dramatic speech about not being emotionally available. You may even panic and think, why is this person kind to me? Why do they get my humor? Why does this feel safe? And most terrifying of all, why do I feel seen? Sag, breathe. Being understood is not a trap. This connection does not arrive to rescue or repair you. It arrives to mirror your growth, to remind you that although you have built an impressive life of independence, you were never meant to carry every truth by yourself. For years, you've been walking at a pace too fast for the people around you, both spiritually and psychologically. But now, the universe places someone beside you who can keep up, not because you slowed down, but because they were always meant to join you at this part of the journey. This is resonance, not rescue. This is partnership in its purest form, a reminder that the path ahead is not meant to be traveled alone, and that sometimes the most profound gift life offers is a witness who understands your fire rather than fears it. The third shift unfolding for you is the kind of change you can actually see, touch, and deposit because while philosophers love to debate whether material gains matter, Sagittarians know the truth. Money may not buy happiness in the traditional sense, but it absolutely buys plane tickets, new adventures, unexpected courses you'll abandon halfway through, and speakers loud enough to broadcast your latest self-help obsession to everyone within a 3-block radius. For Sagittarius, that's close enough to happiness to count. Around December 5th, the energy around you becomes unmistakably tangible. Something in the physical world, your finances, career path, daily structure, or sense of stability shifts with surprising speed. It might show up as a long-delayed refund, a job opportunity, an unexpected offer, a message that changes your trajectory, or a chance so aligned with your direction that even you, with your Olympic-level skepticism towards structure, can't miss it. Astrologically, this moment is shaped by the combination of the Wheel of Fortune and the activation of Mars, a pairing that signals momentum you don't have to manufacture yourself. The wheel brings timing and acceleration, Mars brings drive and direction. Together, they create the rare moment in life where internal growth is finally mirrored by external results. In other words, the work you've been doing privately, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically starts paying dividends in your outer life. From a behavioral science perspective, this is completely predictable. When people release emotional clutter, their cognitive load lightens. Creativity returns. Confidence rises. Decision-making sharpens. What once felt intimidating suddenly becomes obvious. What once felt impossible now seems doable. You're not magically lucky this season, you're aligned. This is why you must be deliberate when opportunity arrives. Sagittarius is famously quick, but also famously distracted. You're capable of sprinting toward your goals, yet equally capable of wandering off because a random idea, stray question, or existential crisis looked interesting. So when this moment arrives, do not hesitate. Don't talk yourself out of it with the classic Sagittarius internal monologue, "Sure, this looks perfect for me, therefore it must be a trap." And please, for the love of your ruling planet Jupiter, don't ghost the opportunity for days simply because you forgot the email existed under 7 tabs of travel deals and personality quizzes you absolutely didn't need. This is a season of yes, not maybe later. To support this turning point, there is a simple ritual, nothing mystical, nothing theatrical, just intention made conscious. On December 5th, wear something turquoise. I know, it sounds oddly specific, but turquoise supports both the heart and throat centers, the places where desire and expression meet. These are precisely the areas Sagittarius struggles with when overwhelmed, or when pretending not to be overwhelmed, which is almost always. Wear it not as a charm, but as a reminder of what you are opening yourself to receive. Next, write down 3 things you are genuinely ready to let go of. Not the superficial annoyances you complain about for dramatic effect, but the real weight you've been carrying, the belief, the habit, the resentment that keeps pulling you backward. You don't have to burn the paper unless you enjoy theatrics, and as a fire sign, that wouldn't surprise me. The purpose is clarity, not pyrotechnics. Finally, place your hand over your heart and say, "I am ready for what aligns with my truth." No Sanskrit chanting required. No incense that smells like an ancient monk's laundry room. Just breath, intention, and self-honesty. This practice reflects what Buddhism calls right effort, not forcing the world into your shape, not resisting the changes inviting you forward, but aligning your internal readiness with the external opportunities approaching. In that space of alignment, the turning point becomes not only possible, but inevitable. The deepest transformation unfolding for you now is not the blessing itself, not the opportunity, not even the breakthrough that seems to shimmer just over the horizon. The real change is you, the quiet, steady, unmistakable evolution of your inner landscape. Most people look for signs in the outer world, waiting for circumstances to shift before they allow themselves to believe a new chapter has begun. But Sagittarius, your shift is happening in a far more meaningful place. It's happening in the way you think, the way you respond, the way you trust yourself with a confidence that is no longer loud or restless, but grounded and calm. For perhaps the first time in a long time, your authority comes not from defiance or rebellion but from presence. You finally trust your timing, instead of rushing ahead of it. You trust your intuition, instead of treating it like a vague suggestion. You trust your worth, instead of bargaining with it. And perhaps most profoundly, you trust your path not because it is easy or predictable, but because you no longer feel the need to sprint away from uncertainty. This is what spiritual maturity looks like, the kind of inner awakening Buddhism describes as knowing the knower, the moment you stop looking outward for validation and begin recognizing the quiet, reliable compass inside you. It doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It doesn't demand attention. Instead, it moves through you with an elegance that is stronger than force and more stable than intensity. Every experience you've survived was shaping you. Every ending carved space for something better. Every delay redirected you towards something more aligned. Life was not happening to you, it was sculpting you. And now, finally, you are the person capable of carrying the blessings that once felt too heavy, too complicated, or too far away. You no longer fear the magnitude of what you desire, because the growth you've undergone has made you equal to it. This brings us to the beginning of your next great cycle. In astrology, Jupiter, the planet that rules Sagittarius, moves in 12-year arcs, each marking a new chapter of expansion, identity, and purpose. December 5th isn't simply a lucky day or a cosmic coincidence, it is the ignition point of a long, unfolding rise. This is not a weekend shift or a fleeting upswing of motivation. This is the start of a chapter defined by abundance, clarity, relationships that resonate with your highest self, and opportunities that fit who you are now, not who you used to be. The universe has been holding this door open for a while, but you needed to grow into the version of yourself who could walk through it with steadiness instead of fear. And now, the message is unmistakable, Sagittarius, step forward. You're ready. If you want to anchor this shift in your psyche, speak it into your own life. I am ready for my December 5th breakthrough. I receive what aligns with my highest truth. These phrases are not spells or shortcuts. They are statements of self-recognition, psychological commitments that stabilize your intention. They mark the moment you choose to meet your destiny with awareness instead of hesitation. And this time, the universe isn't whispering its encouragement from afar. It's standing at the doorway, holding it open, calling your name with a smile that says, "You're late but right on time." So breathe, Sagittarius. Let yourself enjoy what's coming, and even more importantly, who you're becoming. Life isn't asking you to chase it right now. It's asking you to receive it. To savor it. To remember that joy is not a distraction but a direction. And as you move into this 12-year rise, allow yourself to laugh more, wander more, soften more, and trust that the horizon you've been chasing is finally walking toward you too. If this message resonated with you, I invite you to like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to our channel, Zodiac Talks Tarot. Your support helps this community grow, and it ensures you never miss the guidance aligned with your path. Here's to your rise, Sagittarius. The world has been waiting for you.